new school buildings, the water and sewer systems, and off-street parking. These are all examples of capital projects that receive funding based on the city's municipal bond rating, which is something that most people might not be familiar with, but it is extremely important to the city's success. My name's Tom Matthews, and on this episode of The Buzz, I'll be talking to the city manager to find out exactly what a municipal bond rating is, how it impacts the city, and you. All right, let's do it. All right, Mr. Manager, today we are talking about municipal bond ratings, something that everyone in the city might not be familiar with. Can you explain what exactly a municipal bond rating is?
That's one way to evaluate the economic well-being of a community. So they want to evaluate how well the city is doing, the economic growth, and how well are you doing in managing your debt and making sure that you're making payments and you're paying your debt as time goes on.
So, Mr. Manager, how frequently does the city find out what its municipal bond rating is?
We do that on an annual basis. What we do presentations to the bond rating agencies. There's three of them. There's Moody, there's S&P, and also Fitch. And those three we present on an annual basis our financial picture, our growth, our debt, our revenues, our expenses, and we give them a full picture of where we stand as a community, and then they evaluate that and provide us a grading score back.
So what is the city's bond rating right now?
Moody is at an AA3, S&P is at an AA minus, Fitch is at an AA.
So that's stable across the board.
And so we've been stable since 2014. And that shows our stability to manage our debt and also be able to show economic improvement in our community. Now, these ratings are very good ratings for us as a municipality because they're at the highest grade. So there's different levels and different grades levels for these ratings, and we're at the highest. And so there's a few other, rating scores that are above us, and that's what we're striving for. But at the end of the day, we've achieved to be at that top rank, which allows us to do a lot more with those ratings.
Can you explain what specifically the municipal bond rating is applicable to here in the city?
The bond ratings help us in trying to lower interest rates, our coupon rates, the way they say it, and then allows us to manage and borrow our debt better. And so when we have a good score, we are able to be more marketable for other investors to invest in our bonds so that we can continue to borrow and invest in our community, whether it's in education, our streets, our equipment, etc. And that's the way we're able to leverage these scores.
So in everyday terms, it might be similar to, someone personally having a credit card.
It's very similar to a municipality. The credit scores that a personal individual may have, we have bond ratings. Mm-hmm. And so our debt is determined, and how much we pay on that debt is determined based on that rating. Just like an individual does when they're buying a home or buying a vehicle, depending on their credit score, that interest rate may go up or down. And so we have that same impact, that same effect when we're borrowing dollars to build new high schools, to build new schools, maintain our schools, build new buildings, fix our roads, fix the sidewalks, etc. Any of the monies that we borrow on an annual basis are to improve our community, and they're all based on that bond rating score.
So someone looking to improve this credit score, there's certain steps that they can take to make it go up, certain steps they can make to have it go down. What are steps that the city can take? Are there any that the city can do to make its bond rating go up?
There's a number of things that we do to helping our bond ratings increase. One of them is we want to make sure to evaluate our revenues. Any way that we can generate more revenue to the city, we want to evaluate that. What's the trend look like? What's the growth pattern look like? We also evaluate the assessed values of properties in the city, income levels in our community. That says a big picture. The other thing that we evaluate is our debt. How do we manage our debt effectively? Are we borrowing beyond our capacity? Are we borrowing just where below the means? Are we borrowing just right in a moment where we have enough revenue to cover our capital expenses? And then we have to have plans to manage that debt. That's why right now we as a city, for many years, we've had a financial integrity plan. It was used to be known as a 5-point plan. Now it's called a financial integrity plan. And that financial integrity plan is our roadmap to making sure that we manage our debt on an annual basis. City Council and the mayor approved that plan years ago, and it's something that we've honored every time we manage the budget. We put budgets together, and we also take into consideration any new free cash or new growth that comes into the city. So when you have a good plan, solid plan to manage your debt, and you also evaluate your revenues, then you can have a better understanding of where you stand in that credit score and how you want to make sure that you stabilize your bond rating.
All right, so residents that are watching now, how does it impact their lives and why should they care about the city's municipal bond rating?
It impacts everything that we do because anything a municipality does impacts the bottom line, which is your taxes, tax levy. So you as a property owner, it impacts your taxes. You as a renter, it impacts your rent, right? So everything is impacted by our ability to manage our tax levy. And so this is part of that, right? Managing our tax levy, managing these dollars in a way that's fruitful, in a way that's also responsible, and by being good stewards of these dollars, help to alleviate some of the burdens, some of the challenges that communities face, whether it's increasing in cost or other elements. We are able to kind of manage that by managing the tax levy and the expenditures on the tax levy.
All right, so the city gets its report on the bond ratings. What are the next steps? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so once we get these reports, we continue to then evaluate our finances on a yearly basis. Because again, annually we report out to them. We work with the auditors. We work with our financial institutions to manage our debt. What is it that we need? How do we, understand and know what projects need to be prioritized? Which projects needs to maybe perhaps be on hold? How do we create a capital schedule over the next 10, 15 years? Because again, we would love to do everything right now.
Yeah.
But again, that's a significant amount of debt that we just don't have the ability to pay for. And so we have to, plan out accordingly in a number of years in a way that we can pay that back over a period of time. And so we have to be mindful of that. And that's, currently what we work on a yearly basis.
Awesome. All right, Mr. Manager, well, is there anything else that residents should know about municipal bond ratings?
It's not a very sexy topic, conversation, right? People, when you start talking about accounting, finance, or any of those elements, people tend to tune out. But it's extremely important because our ability to manage our debt and our ability to take in more and more debt impacts these ratings. Myself and the team here has to spend a lot of time in discussions thinking through about when's the right time to borrow, when's the right time to take on a significant project, when's the right time to overburden a particular line item. Those are the things that we have to have conversation about because we can't just throw everything there and expect it to be paid for. Because at the end of the day, like I said, it impacts the residents of our community. And so we have to be mindful to prioritize and manage that over time so that not only we get work done, but also not overburden the residents of this community.
All right, Mr. Manager, thank you so much for walking us through a municipal bond rating. And thank you for tuning in. If you haven't, gone over and give the city a follow on all of our social media channels and head on over to worcesterma.gov to find out everything else that's happening in the city.